Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And I wanted to, mention this, which I believe this was the same bill that when it was first mentioned, we had done videos on it, but I wanted to just revisit it again as it's catching more and more attention, and pretty much just what's going on over there in Canada, right? And this is an article from Zero Hedge highlighting a bill that is being introduced here by Justin Trudeau, and as the headline reads, "Blame Canada. Justin Trudeau creates blueprint for dystopia in a horrific speech bill." And there are a couple of things that I wanted to just put emphasis on that were mentioned in this article, which are how, like a perfect example actually of how these governments operate, in terms of deception. Okay, so let's read a little bit of this and then we'll go into it. Now it says here on February 21st, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau gave a press conference in Edmonton announcing his government's decision to introduce the Online Harms Act, or Bill C-63. Now listen to this. It was described in Canadian media as a bill to protect kids that would stop the exploitation of children, as Trudeau's court speech focused solely on minors. The scarf-clad PM angrily dismissed criticisms the bill might have a broader focus. So they pushed the narrative that this is like a main, it's mainly to protect children, and who doesn't want to protect children, right? I look forward to putting forward that online harms bill, which people will see is very, very specifically focused on protecting kids and not on censoring the internet, he said sharply. So he said these words, right? Okay. I think everyone, wherever they are in the political spectrum, can agree that protecting kids is something governments should be focused on doing. How about they keep that same sentiment and focus on protecting, kids, not just here, but everywhere as well. You protecting kids from people like you? Anyway, you see how they're wording this, right? And they actually said this. Actually, he actually said that, right? Okay. Soon after, on February 26, Trudeau's government introduced the bill. Canada's stable of retreating, credulous on-air personalities announced its rollout like the arrival of penicillin. Tonight, Web of Harm gushed CTV's Omar Sakadina, tackling online dangers and safeguarding children, the long-awaited framework for protecting the vulnerable. There was little initial uproar. What could be wrong with increasing child safety or protecting the vulnerable? Then people read the bill. If you look at the purpose of this law, it's actually quite noble, and most lawyers would agree with it, says Canadian attorney Dan Freeheit. Online safety, protecting children's physical and mental health, but the actual text, it's wild. Trudeau was lying when he said C-63 was very, very specifically focused on correcting kids. The purpose of the Online Harms Act extends far beyond speech, reimagining society as a mandated social engineering project, creating transformational new procedures that would, and then here's a list of things that the bill would actually do. And you tell me if this bill is very, very specifically towards protecting children and not towards censoring the internet, as he said. So here's one of the things that the bill would entail. Enlist Canada's citizens in an ambitious social monitoring system with rewards of up to $20,000 dollars for anonymous informants of hateful behavior, with the guilty paying penalties of up to $50,000, creating a self-funded national spying system. Introduce extraordinary criminal penalties, including life in prison, not just for existing crimes like advocating genocide, which that's I think in Canada that's already a law, a crime, but for any offense motivated by hatred. In theory, any non-criminal offense as tiny as littering committed with hateful intent. Wow. That sounds, I don't know, but that sounds very, very specifically focused towards protecting children and not towards censoring the internet or anything like that. So basically, you could, as I think the article goes on to give that example, right? You crumble a piece of a flyer and then you throw it somewhere, and maybe in a national park. That's considered littering, but the flyer maybe might have been like some alphabet, community related event or something like that. Oh, if you littered with hate, that's now you're in violation here, and now you're subject to, this high penalty here, which could include life in prison. So what people started finding out was that, this guy's this guy's straight lying through his teeth. Punish Minority Report pre-crime, where if an informant convinces a judge you will commit a hateful offense, you can be jailed up to a year, put under house arrest, have firearms seized, or be forced into drug/alcohol testing, all for things you haven't done. Wow, that sounds like it's exactly what children need for their protection. Really, if you look at it. Penalize past statements. The law gets around prohibitions against retroactive punishment by calling the offense continuous communication of hate, i.e., the crime is your failure to take down bad speech. So basically, to get around the block of not being able to retroactively punish somebody, they'll say, well, if you leave some hateful speech that maybe you posted on Facebook 3 years ago, if you leave that up and you don't go back and take it down, then we're not necessarily punishing you for a post that you made 3 years ago, but we're punishing you for failing to go and take down a hateful speech that you posted. So that's continuous communication of hate. So I hope it's starting to be clear how they operate, and with actual lies and deception. And they push these things, and it's always about the intent. But look at the fine print. Look at the implementation. Okay, you're intending to do this, but how are you let me just take this movie for an example, right? Avengers. Oh, Thanos' intent was, now this is not whether it's agreeable or not. The point is, Thanos' intent was to make the world a better place, bring peace. His implementation of it was by eliminating, I think, half of the universe or so, just snapping his finger and boom, they're dead. So intent and implementation can sometimes differ very drastically. And in this case, the implementation is very, very how some of these things that are mentioned here, you wonder, how does this accomplish exactly the, protection of children per se? It sounds like there's more to it. That could the protection of children could fall under certain things that are mentioned, but it sounds like the majority of things that are mentioned here go far beyond that. But obviously, if they came out and said, hey, we're introducing a bill that can put you in jail for life if you commit a minor offense but with hate in your heart. People, they would, instead of a small uproar, there would be a large uproar. So instead, this is the route they go with. Here it says, penalize past statements. Oh, I read that. Force corporate internet platforms to remove harmful content virtually on demand within 24 hours in some cases. The hammer being fines of up to 6% of gross global revenue. Now, here's the thing. YouTube, for example, does not need the whole world to come and tell it to change its policies. Really, it only needs one country. Like Canada could say, look, if you do not, you being an internet platform, if you do not remove this harmful content here, or better yet, enact or update your guidelines to protect against this kind of harmful content, then you're going to be fined this amount. Here's the thing about that, though, right? YouTube is not going to say, or they could, but chances are they're not just going to say, okay, if you're in Canada, then, you know what I'm saying? Like, if your audience is in Canada, then we got to make laws specifically for, Canadians on the YouTube platform. That's not scalable. That's ineffective. As a corporation, that they might as well just introduce a law or whatever across the board. Okay, and pretty much that's what this will lead to, and it won't just be YouTube, unless they just say we're not going to offer services in Canada. But here's the thing: this is not just in Canada. There are different versions of this all around. So it says things you're seeing, things you've already said, things an administrative judge thinks you might say, all barred, with neighbors deputized as enforcers. How is that going to be efficient? Because you got people today that frame other people. You got people that lie on people just because they don't like them or just for whatever. And you think that you can trust them with being enforcers of laws that can put somebody in jail for life? Good times. Leave it to Trudeau, a frequent trailblazer in new forms of illiberalism in the digital age, to come up with this quantum leap downward on the rights front. C-63 is a Frankenstein's monster combining the worst censorship ideas already deployed by supposed ally government in laws like Europe's Digital Services Act, you can look into that, Australia's updated Australian Communications and Media Authority Act, and you see how they frame these words, use the acronyms, and C-63. If you hear C-63 and you're not looking into this, you're like, okay, why do I care about that? And Scotland's Hate Crime and Public Order Act, which saw 7,152 complaints in its first week when the law took effect last month. Now, I'm going to stop here. I want to bring out two precepts here. The first one being in Revelation chapter 13. And this is Revelation 13 and 11. And it reads, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." Now, we know that this is primarily focusing on Babylon, right? And the coming up out of the earth, meaning coming up into power. But the two horns are being the two main political parties, right? Like the Democrats and the Republicans, right? And as it says, like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So that lamb is that facade of being gentle and having the people's good intentions in mind. But when they actually spake, it was like a dragon, which goes into draconian measures, which is extremely harsh punishment for petty crimes, right? Now, this article that I just read is an example. Okay, it's an example of something that is like what is being referred to here about speaking as a lamb or having the appearance of a lamb, but speaking as a dragon. See, so that's what I mentioned about the intention versus the implementation. So here it is. They're saying, oh yeah, this is specifically to protect children and yada yada yada. But when you look at what the bill actually entails, this is, pretty much shut up, don't have any opinions, and agree with whatever we push out, because if not, you're a criminal, and we're gonna charge you, with some harsh penalties, and better yet, we're gonna have your neighbors do it, So now you can sort of already see what direction the world is going in, and this is exactly what we've been warning you about. Okay, so I mean, it's not a surprise to us, but if even just reading something like this is letting you know, like, yo, this shit is getting wild. Imagine what it's going to be like when it's actually when it actually comes out. And believe it won't just be Canada. Okay, if you're thinking, oh well, that's just Canada, it's not gonna be just Canada. So that's pretty much what's on the way now. I got one more precept that I wanted to get. Let's see. Yep, this is Isaiah chapter 29, verse 21, and it reads, "That make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate," because they have turned, right, something like reproving or standing up or speaking uprightly into the term hate speech or just hate. So even if you just stand up and speak up for what's right, they can categorize that as hate. So if you reprove somebody, and in this case, like we would reprove people that are being wicked because they're being wicked, they will consider that hate. Therefore, they lay a snare to say that, hey, there's a law that we're putting out here where if you are speaking uprightly, we can deem that as hate. And if we catch you being hateful, guess what? You're now going to face these consequences. It says, reproveth in the gate and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. So this is pretty much what they're doing. And as we've explained to you, they're closing in. They're closing in. So if you thought that you didn't have freedoms now, you can kiss whatever you have now goodbye as this world moves more and more into that digital age, because that digital or that digitalization is what allows them to really enforce these kinds of measures, because then they can get full access to what you're doing, what you're thinking, and all of that. So anyway, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.